You have certain skills, certain good habits, certain ways that you execute, and you think you want to take that into your future.
Yeah.
But don't take your lack or your insecurity. Don't take your pain or your misery. That stays. Yeah. And if you can't think greater than how you feel in your life, then you're thinking in the past, and your life will stay the same. So teaching people how to break out of the biology of their hardwired programs, the biology of the conditioning emotionally of their body, the biology of their habituations is a process that requires a great amount of energy and awareness. But people are doing it, and they're doing it really successfully. The story we tell ourselves is how we perceive the world. And so then when we create the difficulties in our life, it reaffirms the belief that life is hard, that it's really someone out there that's doing it to us, that it's a circumstance in the past that created this. Okay, let's take away the person that did it. Let's shoot him to the moon. Let's erase your past. Now what are you going to do now? You still got to do something, right? You're still alive. And I say we already know how to do this. We already know how to do this. We're wired to be creators. We're wired to do this. The thing that stops us, for the most part, in doing it is really the hormones of stress, because living in stress constantly is living in survival, and living in survival is living in emergency. In an emergency, it's not a time to create. In an emergency, it's not a time to open your heart. It's not a time to learn. It's not even a time to sit still. So most people then that are living in stress and living in survival, they can't believe in a future yet because it's not a time to create. So getting people to that point where they make up their mind, and they make up their mind enough to begin to think, there's got to be a better way, there's got to be something else. That awakening process typically happens when people reach their lowest denominator. They hit rock bottom, because then they can see themselves through the eyes of somebody else. You feel so altered, you're not returning any texts. You feel so altered, you don't want to go to dinner with your buddies. You feel so altered, you don't want to watch your favorite TV show. You're just disconnected. And that's when you start observing yourself. But my message is, why wait for that? I mean, you can learn and change in pain and suffering, or you can learn and change in joy and inspiration. If you're waking up every morning being defined by a vision of the future instead of the memories of the past, and you get up and you're inspired from an elevated self now instead of a limited self, you could observe the old self from an elevated state instead of that diminished state. And people are doing that. So they are aware of those thoughts. And yes, it takes effort. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But just because you have a thought doesn't necessarily mean it's true. And when you start looking and observing those thoughts, I think you are like Gandalf, because Gandalf also said, you may not pass, when he meant like that kind of severity when it comes to how we make up our mind about things. That's the kind of energy or intention that begins to create the biggest volume of change in our life. And I've interviewed thousands of people in our work that have healed from really serious health conditions. And I would say about 90% of them, when I ask them, so what happened? The first thing they say all the time is, I just made up my mind. I just made up my mind I was going to do this. And they made a decision with such firm intention that the amplitude of that decision carried a level of energy that was greater than the hardwired programs in their brain and the emotional conditioning in their body. And the choice that they made caused their body to respond to a new mind. In fact, the choice they made became a moment that they would never forget. It was an event. And the stronger the emotion they felt, the more they paid attention to the choice. And in a sense, they were remembering their future. And the body emotionally was getting a sampling, a taste of the future. And they're aligned to that future, and that's when the body's healing began. That's when the miracle started, right in that moment. That's how powerful we really are. Now, what if you did that every day? What if you made up your mind every single day you weren't going to get up from your meditation until you were that person you wanted to be? Game on now. Because you'd have to do battle with all the things that are not consistent with it, and that's exactly how our brain works. So then, if you want to be wealthy, you can't feel lack. You want to be a master, you can't judge your coworker. You want to be like somebody great in history, then you better execute peace in every area of your life. That's the law. So you take the prayer out on the road now. You take the prayer, you're the living example of the prayer. That's where it matters the most. And that's when people start getting suspicious and say, Sean, man, did you change your medication? I mean, you're looking way too happy all of a sudden. Well, you're not relying on anything outside of you to bring you joy. You're overcoming yourself every day. And people say to me, well, why do you do your meditations in the morning? I always say, easy. Because if I can overcome myself at the beginning of the day, the rest of the day is easy. Because that's the biggest mastery, right? Absolutely. Is the self. And so people are waking up to that, and they enjoy the process of seeing when they make those type of changes, the feedback that's happening in their lives. The synchronicities, the opportunities, the coincidences, those serendipities that are starting to happen, and they're going, wow, I am powerful. Hey, I am a creator, and nobody's excluded from the equation. That's what makes it so cool. So people that are really sick, really, really sick, that are healing, they'll tell you that when they go to the doctor and the doctor said, where's the stage 4 cancer? They'll tell the doctor it's in the old person. I'm somebody else. Well, how'd you do it? Well, I downregulated the genes for disease by overcoming these emotions and these behaviors and thoughts, and I upregulated the genes for health. The doctor kind of looks at him and was like, wow, because it is possible to do that. And we've actually measured it in our events. We know that in 4 days, you can really change your gene expression. Genes that help restore balance, for cancer cells and tumors. Genes that activate stem cells to repair the cells that are damaged. Genes for neurogenesis, the growth of new neurons in your brain. Genes for oxidative balance, for the microtubules, the cellular structure, and the replication of cells. These are all activated in 4 days by people thinking differently, making different choices, doing different things, having new experiences, feeling new emotions. Your genes actually change. And so we're not doomed by our genes. We're not hardwired to be a certain way for the rest of our lives. We are marvels of adaptability and change. So then what does it mean to change? Change means then to be greater than your body. Greater than the body that has been conditioned emotionally to be the mind. Greater than the body habituated into a predictable future. To be greater than the environment. To be greater than the conditions in your life. And if you're not being defined by a vision of the future and you wake up every morning, it makes total sense then when you see the same people and you go to the same places and you do the exact same thing at the exact same time. Now your personality is no longer creating your personal reality. Your personal reality is creating your personality because every person, every object, every thing, every place is mapped neurologically in your brain. And since you've experienced your boss, since you've experienced your coworker, since you've experienced your ex, the moment you've experienced them at some point, there's an emotion associated with them. So then all of a sudden people wake up and they're not aware of this, but their environment is influencing the way they think and the way they feel. So when things are going good, they feel good. When things are bad, they feel bad, which means they're victims to their environment. Why are you unhappy? Well, this person made me unhappy, which means unconsciously, that person is actually controlling the way I feel and the way I think. Now I'm a victim to that circumstance. So to change then is to be greater than that environment. So then you would have to reprogram the way you'd think and the way you'd feel to no longer return back to the same state of being. Now that's the mastery, because it isn't just having a great meditation and then getting on the freeway and flipping everybody off or judging your coworker. Right. You just return back to the old self. You got to be able to maintain that modified state of mind and body your entire day. And if you can, get ready, because weird things are going to happen in your life. So the person who's starting to try it out in a curious way, like, let's just do the experiment. Let's just see if I change my energy, I change the way I think I feel, is there going to be some effect in my life? When they start seeing that, they're no longer like, oh, I got to go create my life today. They're actually excited to do it because they don't want the magic to end. They want to keep it going. Now, that's when it gets kind of cool, because this is when you start believing in yourself. And when you believe in yourself, you believe in possibilities, right? When you believe in possibilities, you got to believe in yourself. When you stop believing in possibilities, you can't believe in yourself. So people are waking up and going, wow, it doesn't matter your skin color, it doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how healthy you are, it doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are, how in shape, out of shape, not even if you've ever meditated before. It doesn't even matter. It's a formula. And you don't need 40 years of dedication to meditation to get it. You just got to understand the formula. And like playing ping pong or hitting a golf ball or dancing the salsa, you're going to figure it out sooner or later, and it's going to get easier and it's going to get fun. That's what we want for people.